Hello, and welcome to Black Dragon Roleplay. We are not professional voice actors, we are not gaming gods, we're just a group of friends that have been brought together through the love of story who want to share our tabletop adventures with all of you. A few things before we start our session proper tonight. We are so glad that you are here watching us live on Twitch. We appreciate all the support that we have on here. If you are new here and you want to keep up with the campaign, drop us a follow. That way you can be notified whenever we go live. If you like to support us, there's a subscribe button. Drop your Prime, sub for some emotes, support the stream. We greatly appreciate everyone who does so. We have a YouTube, we have social medias, we have Discord, and we have our own personal links. All of this and more can be found in the info boxes below. We are now 37 episodes.
Hey.
This is the 37.
This is 38.
You sure?
Yeah. I double checked.
Okay. Well, my numbers are off then. We are now 34 episodes into this campaign, so if you've missed anything or would like to watch the show from the beginning, please take a look at our YouTube page. Every previous session is eventually posted there within a week or two. I just realized I never gave you a thumb for last week, so that's my fault. So please join us on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe, and make sure that you... What button to put up there? Feed the dragon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So excellent.
We're professionals. We play D&D, but we also play video games on this channel and do other things. Join us this Tuesday for Thumper and the Moose, aka Tuesday nights, where we play through Xbox Game Pass by the hopes that someone from Microsoft stumbles upon our stream and sponsors us. This week, we played Stellaris. Did we do that Tuesday? Yes, we did. Tuesday night, we did that, and we had a lot of fun, and we're going to try to continue that, as well as maybe do some other things this week. So try us again Tuesday night, and you can be a part of us. Join it there. Our recap last week, episode called Clash of the Titans. On their quest to find an ancient longsword with magical healing properties, these heroes of the Oath now stand on one of the highest peaks of all of Alma, staring up at a 25-foot ancient Titan. When the Titan asked who sent them, bravely they spoke the name of King Ortran and of their quest. The Titan responded by tightening his grip on his ginormous axe and announcing loudly, "Worthy is the one who will take the treasure from the mountain. Worth must be earned. Prepare yourselves." And as the battle begins to rage, Branimir steps up in his opening turn and takes out a nearly forgotten berserker potion that makes him grow to double his size and step up, not quite eye to eye with this creature. And then the following round, following suit, Boltzmann also increases Bran's size so that he is nearly eye to eye, standing toe to toe with this 25-foot creature. After taking one incredibly powerful attack, slicing into his own armor, Bran taking almost 60 hit points in one swing. His companion, his not familiar, but his animal companion breaks and joins the fray. And after the Titan gives and submits after the request of Camiel, our poor little Addie takes one swipe, hitting only for a few hit points, but killing the Titan, lowering him to the ground. But only for a moment, as he had cast a spell that woke him. And as he stands up, recuperating, takes his large axe in the middle of the platform in which they fought, breaking the platform, exposing a set of stairs going into the mountain. Once the group descends into the mountain, they find a Underdark type realm where it's filled with these luminescent mushrooms and fauna of all sort of weird alien look. And as they get to the middle of this large open area, they find not only the sword, they find a building that is a large sphere, 200 feet across. And once they do some exploration and begin to use this orb sitting in the middle of this large dome, they find out that they are now standing in the middle of the Starcasters Observatory, a building that is set up and designed so that they can see anywhere in the entire world of Xperia. And that is where we're at now. We are now within this giant orb, and the team is kind of getting to separate a little bit, deciding now that it's time to rest. So where is everybody, and what is everybody doing at this point?
What time of day is it?
We're setting up camp.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Boltzmann would be able to tell you that it's in the afternoon, now that you've kind of settled down a little bit, taken a short rest. Once you've explored everything, it's getting in the afternoon, not quite dark.
Did we decide?
But the light on the interior here there's no light available, so you yourself can't really tell. But Boltzmann, because of his feet, would say that.
Did we decide that we were going to camp here for a couple of days, or at least a couple of nights, to sort of discuss and work out what we're doing?
Yeah, I do
At
believe
least one night.
Yeah, at least one night, at the very least.
Did we want to make camp down here, or did we want to go up above and make camp?
Above, I'd say outside.
Well, it's very cold outside versus seems temperate in here.
True.
We could camp near the entrance.
Yeah.
Emmy would request getting to well, since it's already a pre-made separate room, she would briefly mention she wouldn't mind staying in the room with the observatory. There's all kinds of things she would like to observe about it, which is par for the course as far as she's concerned. Plus, it's already sectioned off.
Dante just shrugs. Okay. He will just go off and start making camp. I think Saoirse said she was wandering outside as well, so...
Yeah, she would have left. As soon as everyone agreed to make camp, she would have stepped out of the room. It makes her the spinning room when anybody touches the orb makes her queasy.
So the observatory is there, but then outside of the observatory, there is a very large cavern that's, hundreds and hundreds of feet across, and at least 200, 300, 400 feet high. So it is quite high. So it is, you're able to make camp. There's not like you can make camp there, or you can go up and out if you'd like to, back onto the platform where the Titan was.
Oh, well, if there is a chamber. Yeah, if there's a chamber, like an outer chamber, then I suppose we could set up camp there, and as long as we don't suffer from carbon monoxide.
It's big enough.
No, this space is large enough you don't feel it, and you also feel a draft, which means it's not completely closed.
Did we search the cavern itself?
You did somewhat. You do notice you do still see all of the surrounding fauna that's around. A lot of moss is still covering everything. The initial kind of shock of this, the observatory kind of kicking in from the inside in the observatory. Once this happens, and once you kind of take your hand off and kind of it goes into shutdown mode, you do notice that the moss is kind of falling off in big, large chunks of the roof of this big sphere. But once you step out, everything still seems fairly normal. You still see the star patterns that is above you, like within the ceiling of this place, and you do see there's quite a different. It's almost like a garden area, not like a garden, but almost like a urban garden type location, like a park, where there's different sections or different levels around this thing, different terraces, and no official structures as enclosed other buildings. There are open arches and things like that are more decorative in nature, but no like other building like enclosed.
While we're making camp, Dante will just keep looking around, and I suppose we'll volunteer to go for a bit of a run around just to double check and make sure, like do a circuit of the cavern to make sure they're to confirm entrances and exits and stuff. So,
okay.
And he can see in the dark, so he won't need to light a light. Doesn't need a light source.
Okay. Go ahead and roll a perception or investigation, depending on how you plan to look at this. Whether you're looking at it or you're feeling around.
Yeah, I'm not like checking out every nook and cranny. I'm just like making sure I can see that there are no entrances and exits. So sort of like just moving along. Is so perception.
Perception.
Did she roll? Did it happen?
Yeah. You got a 16.
I got a 16. First roll of the night. Yay.
Well, the dice didn't roll on multiple, but it rolled in chat. Okay. So as a 16, you kind of take a longer look around. You would kind of beeline it directly to the observatory, in this large dome that is definitely the focal point of this inner cavern, this large cavern. But you do take a look around. You do notice. You can definitely find where the breeze is coming in and out. There are cracks that have you can kind of feel it's not large enough to be, you couldn't fit through it. But there are cracks that you can find that kind of like, almost like little mini cavern and like outjuts of the cavern itself. Not big enough to fit a person through, but there definitely is some wind that it causes, some movement of the air. But again, not big enough for like a human creature to fit.
Okay, so
and there seems to be the only way in and out is the staircase that you guys had come down.
Okay, well, as long as he doesn't see anything obvious or like just anything that could clearly be another entryway into he'll just go back to camp and let everybody know.
Only other thing that you kind of notice as you're kind of taking this trip around, you do see a lot of iconography of the Starcaster. So a lot of different runes and almost like a carved mural at one point. It's kind of you could barely see it, but once you kind of rub the little piece away to get see it more in detail, it's kind of like mural of the Starcaster.
Okay.
See the kind of almost mimics what is on the murals in some of the temples that you've seen.
Yeah.
Kind of same iconography of arcane star power and the Starcaster.
Okay. I'll let everybody know. I'll just inform them when I get back to camp that I don't see much of anything other than a mural and a few small entryways or exits from the. It seems secure. And then he'll start playing with the new sword that he found.
Keep waving that around. You're going to hurt yourself, Dante.
Oh, yeah. Practice.
Are you going to try to attune to it?
No. He doesn't use these swords. He's trained with them, but he doesn't use these swords. He just wants to feel the weight and how well made it is, and he'll go off to the side and just do, grip it in both hands and wave it around a bit.
As you're kind of looking it over, even with your passive perception, you can tell that this metal is unlike anything that you've felt before. It is definitely heavier than anything of the same size, which is why it would require two hands to be able to wield it usefully. It's like the metal seems denser than most of the metals and alloys that you've seen.
Okay.
This is definitely something different. It's a lot darker than the traditional steel or chrome, any kind of long swords you've seen. It's almost dark gray, like almost like a gunmetal, but it has like the Damascus. You can see the ridges where the steel has been kind of pushed together in layers to make it stronger.
Okay. He'll appreciate the workmanship of it and stuff, and then he'll be like, as he sort of, you know, once he gets the balance of it and he starts doing some like sword forms or whatnot, he'll just be call over his shoulder to everybody else. So who's wielding this thing?
Oh, definitely not me, thank you.
Oh, I think it'd suit you well, Camille.
Well, I mean, anything suits me, but I have a choice whether to wield it or not. I don't want to be disrespectful. What I have already is a gift from Sister Ava, so thank you for the offer, but I am going to have to turn it down.
Well, it's what it has the ability of making sure we don't die. I thought perhaps one of our frontliners would prefer to have that ability so that they don't, you know, go unconscious in the middle of combat.
Persuade me and maybe I'll think of it.
Give me another level and I'll charm you.
What good luck with that.
I'll just shrug and just keep playing with the sword a bit. Sersha, how about you?
I think at this, Saoirse would have been probably just watching the exchange between the two of them. I think I might think about it, but I'm usually a long range kind of person. She would touch her bow. Plus, I already have that sword you gave me and this other long sword, and she'd point to the long sword she has strapped to her back now. The adamantine longsword.
Wait,
But
you
I'll
got
think
that from
about
Dante?
it.
The short sword, yeah.
When?
Ages ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
we had to
yeah,
replace.
When Dante was drunk, he gave it to her and said some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that as a player. Camille does not.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, was that
Yeah.
was that Camille? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cameo. Dante gave me his short sword, said he didn't really need it anymore.
How generous.
So I found some use for it here and there.
Oh, why did he give it away? And she kind of gives Dante a suspicious look. Like, that's very generous of you.
He sort of stops, swings his sword up, puts on his shoulder, and then flicks out his right hand, and the metal rapier, comes out. He's like, "Well, I found a good replacement." Makes it disappear again.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Well, perhaps someone should sleep with it. You know, feel it out. See whether it feels good.
That would be where Dante's mind goes.
Yes, it
not to
would.
cut yourself.
I'm sure the.
Emmy looks up from her book. She was in the middle of looking at her grimoire.
Does he?
And she was like sketching while the conversation was happening, probably sitting near to Saoirse and observing everything just kind of a little quietly. But she's in her grimoire again.
Did he hear that?
Probably.
He would have stopped and looked at her with a grin, a warmer reception than you would give, and go back to swinging the blade around.
Okay, that's out of pocket.
Ran coughs like he's holding his wound together and he just coughs. Just
Haven't you looked
Alright.
after that yet?
Little blood came up.
I'll do it. I'll try and patch him up, and she just gives Dante a look. I mean, it's not like she was lying.
And he only just like
just shrugs.
pops her eyebrows and says, "Oh, there's stories I ain't told you yet," and goes back to her grimoire again.
Dante's just got a smile on his face and doesn't seem to care, and goes back to admiring the sword.
I think at this moment, Camille will start undoing Brandimir's poor armor.
I think he would have
Carefully.
already. I think he would have
Oh.
already gotten out of his armor because he has
Okay.
to. He's
Boltzmann
clutching at the wound.
Boltzmann would have ripped it off already and started.
Ripped it off is such a
Where's the
strong
music?
word.
I think he did.
Bran?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Bran disrobe.
Yeah, Boltzmann pretty much like immediately started undoing Bran's plate. It was like, I want to touch it. I want to fix it. Oh yeah. No, DMCA.
That's as far as it goes in terms of music.
Oh my gosh.
Distorted a little bit in post so that it. But yeah. Bran would already be out of his plate armor at this point. He's just he has set up the typical cooking station that he has over the campfire. He has like a little bit of a little baby cauldron up and about. So he's currently not to interrupt your RP there, Yumi. But just for context for Mr. Moose, so I can roll while you're talking, he will be attempting to make sausage lentil soup.
Okay.
While bleeding.
So yeah. No, he's not bleeding. There's still a significant wound there, but he's not bleeding out. He's just kind of clutching it at this point.
Yeah, you'd already gotten some healing. You'd already gotten like 40 points of healing from.
Yeah, a bit of a significant portion of healing.
Yeah.
But I will roll for that while Yumi is talking.
Okay, so while he's probably fucking looking over this goddamn pot and clutching his side, everyone else is probably having a conversation. She will just kind of poke at the hand that's clutching his wound. Can you move your hand? I need to look at that thing.
Bryn is a little bit focused on the meal, and judging from that roll, it's actually a pretty good meal.
Woo!
Yeah, so there's a nice aroma wafting from in this chamber of the sausage lentil soup. And as she pokes at his hand, he kind of does a quick glance in her direction. I'm fine, Cam. Don't worry. You gave a good healing back there.
Really? Why are you still clutching it then?
I mean, it still hurts, but it's not, at least I'm not spilling my guts all over the floor.
If you don't put your hand away from that, I will make sure you will be spilling your guts.
Bran kind of pauses for a moment, looks Camille up and down, as if sizing her up.
Mm-hmm. What, you want to fight?
I could probably take you.
Oh, really?
When roll for initiative.
Roll
Fight
for
on!
initiative.
Party fight. Let's do it.
No, it was a joke. He kind of gives a low rumble for a chuckle, and he just continues like spinning this spoon around in the cauldron. Smells pretty good.
Stop trying to change the subject and let me see.
All right. He just pretty much gives in and moves his hand away.
Does it still look like an open wound?
Well, my health.
For the most part, yeah. It's like you only got like 20 hit points off right now, right?
Almost 30.
Yeah.
Now with the level.
The wound has. Oh, that was with the. Which technically should be after the long rest, but we did level up, and I did not tell chat we did that, but we did level up after last session, after the Titan.
Yay!
But yeah. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
No, I would say that your wound had kind of scabbed over. It was kind of too big for that, but it has kind of closed up where it is not leaking anything. Everything is kind of closed up. It's still tender. It's still very rough.
Yeah, it's a tender pink.
Yeah. But you seem okay.
Oh, well, look at that. You are all healed up.
Well, it still hurts though.
Oh, you wee baby. Do you want me to kiss it for you? Make it feel all better.
Get a room, guys.
This is a room.
It's a
It's actually
cavern.
quite a big room. But yeah. Bran would kind of wave away her joke and instead is trying to like cover it back up with his hand, and because I do believe you expended all of your hit points for the
Lay on hands.
the lay on hands, so that's like
Yes.
that's all used up.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think Bran would still try his best to like, this is just for RP purposes, but because I do believe this is going to be a long rest or a short rest, DM.
Well, if you guys aren't going anywhere, then it would be a short rest turning into a long rest, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So since this is a long rest and he'll probably be healed up by the time this is done anyway, you'll just see this faint green glow from his hand as he's just slowly trying to nurse the wound and just kind of heal himself back to the way he was.
And Camille's just shaking her head. You need to stop doing that.
Doing what?
Self-soothing.
I mean, I can lie down on my back and cry.
Why don't you go ahead and do that? That would be such a sight.
Nothing was ever gained from crying about something, Cam.
Ryan, shut up.
No laughing in chat.
God damn it. Well, you're right. So, what do we do now? We just sit and rest up for the night and
Is
go by
anyone... Is everyone there in the camp, or is anybody in the observatory?
I think everyone's here, including Emmy.
Well, she's outside.
Yeah, she's starting in the camp, but she was actually going to she's going to excuse herself shortly. But food, she's not dumb enough. Emotional she may be, but she's not dumb enough to leave without at least a little food. She's going to wait for food, and then she was going to excuse herself.
I see how it is. I see how it is.
What? It smells really good.
Everybody
yeah,
loves Bran sausages.
Oh,
And
fancy.
brats, let's
It is
go.
the famous sausage, the main
Oh, fuck
ingredient in
yeah.
this sausage lentil soup. But yes, dinner is definitely available. And I will say, DM, that I would be very much interested in checking out the orb later.
Then
And,
Emmy
yeah.
would take a small bowl, a small bit, kind of go back to her space. She's not saying much, and would quietly. She probably wouldn't say anything, just quietly excuse herself back up to the observatory.
Wait, where you going?
Me?
Yeah, you. You did well back there. Where you going?
She pauses a moment because she's not used to, at the very least, I guess between her and Camael, it's been just hurt generosity, and that almost sounds like real generosity. She kind of looks around and shrugs. Well, I appreciate that. It's been a long day. I figured I would start setting up a little bit, getting myself cozy.
Why don't you just eat with us for a bit, and then when we're all done, you can go your way.
Was there more to do?
No, it's called bonding. We hardly know you, you hardly know us. This is a good way to bond.
She
It simply nods.
She looks back at Kemiel and like her eyes are like slowly squinting, but she's still smiling. And she says, well, last I heard that wasn't of much interest to you, I might say, perhaps.
Well, you haven't said anything stupid, so just join us.
The stupid's not my forte.
Oh my
Guys.
god, guys, just stop. Stop. She was trying
Excuse
to,
me?
stop this little banter thing.
What?
Started off well. Kemiel was trying, giving you the leaf of whatever to come and sit down, and then you had to say something, that she had to say something. Just stop.
Me doesn't feel like she's been grounded like a child or scolded like a child. She's looking back and forth between Dante and Kemiel.
One smart ass comment after the other. Then he's got his finger up, looking at the both of you, pointing to one and the other. Stop it. Kemiel was being nice. No, Kemiel was being nice. You'd be nice as well. And she'll be nice. Everybody just be nice.
Pardon me to the other realms and back. But she returns and she fluffs her skirt, when you sit in the big skirt and she lowers herself and just kind of poofs around her, so she's got this little halo of skirt around her, big halo of skirt around her. She sits again.
All right. Dante, I think you're just hungry.
Yeah, Bran is wide-eyed at this point, and he just kind of slowly pours the soup into a bowl with his spoon, and he hasn't taken his eyes off of Dante after his outburst, and he just kind of slowly passes it to Kemiel so she can hand it over to Dante.
I mean, the food's gonna get cold. The food's you're just gonna do this thing where you one up each other and keep going until someone walks off in a huff, or you try to kill each other. I don't know. I am hungry and would really like to eat.
Here you go.
Thank you.
She was stopping you from eating.
Extra serving.
Extra?
Hey.
Danny's got a big smile on his face when you say that.
Bran's just gonna shake his head. Hell, you can have the whole cauldron after that.
And he just woofs into. He completely forgets everything else and woofs into it like he's Goku or something like that. Just
Yeah, Saoirse's been the popcorn eating gift the whole time. Instead of eating, watching,
Holy
snickering
crap.
a little bit when
She doesn't-
when Dante blows up. Snickers a little bit.
Emmy doesn't say anything immediately. She sits and but she's still looking at Kemiel. Her own food already eaten, what little she had planned to have.
Well, that does not normally happen. But I think he's just super hungry. Is what's going on? And she gives
That has
Dante
never
a
happened.
a worried look, oh my god! Never has she ever heard Dante talk like that.
Neither has Bran.
And she just slowly eats her not soup, but her meal rather. So we haven't really talked about where you actually came from before you met us.
Oh, I've been all over. Traveled with a number of people.
Mm-hmm.
I was on my way. She kind of pauses for a moment. Almost like a stutter before continuing. I was on my way to meet some folks that I had been told were expecting me, and actually in the direction of Roteberg, which happened to be where y'all were heading. Hence, seemed to make sense logically to follow along.
Oh, so you're not really comfortable of telling us where you actually came from? I mean, not to pry or anything. It's just a bit of information.
And she looks at you, and it's not like an angry. It's just kind of like an almost, like she kind of cocks her head a little bit, like perhaps there's actual confusion on her face. Well, I come from. Well, I'm from this little coastal city, northwest Nama. A lot of sailors coming through. I didn't live right by the coast. There's a whole coastal urban area, and I was a little further out, more country. But you'd get to meet all sorts of people. Probably part of my love of it wandering. The player actually forgot the name of the city. I was gonna go back and check. It's like Kokek or something.
Well, Bren looks silently. Bran's not gonna say anything, but he's listening in. Can he roll an insight check on that?
Sure.
It is a 19.
19 is what you're saying true?
It is. She's kind of being like spotty about it just because I guess with a role like that, she's just obviously, despite having been a little more like, she's very generally very outspoken. This is clearly some kind of new territory for her. Just talking to people.
She's from all of the previous responses when conversations, she is specifically vague. And there is still a vagueness to this, but there's truth to it, and more, not avoidance, but actual meat to what she's saying.
Right. And I think that's why Bran went with that insight check, is because Emmy does seem to be a bit of a storyteller, and he just wanted to be sure that this was one of those times where it was genuine. So as she's telling about her past, he just slowly nods his head as if encouraging her to say more.
Yeah, I that's where I'm from anyway. She kind of starts fiddling with the bowl and her spoon, and almost like wishing she had her grimoire instead, so she had a proper distraction.
So, if it's proper to ask, you don't have to answer. Is there anything specific you're looking for in this adventure?
Well, I suppose with y'all, she looks at her arm. Oh, the glove is still all the way up to where it meets the sleeve, but it's her longer sleeves because they've been traveling in the cold. She looks at her arm again. Well, with y'all, it seems to be a blood pact. I'm sort of in this till the end, I guess. I guess you mean before that, though.
Definitely, yes. Before any of this, it's more of, let's just say, maybe a personal question that you can answer, or you don't have to answer it.
She keeps going back and forth. This is a very unusual awkwardness to her, because generally she's very outgoing, and she starts tapping the bowl with her nail. Well, I was on my way to Osgith Academy. I studied in the past with some of the finest tutors, and this was further education. And y'all were on the way as well. That's, I suppose, where I'm headed eventually. Inevitably, of course. I have much learning to do there, although I do know quite a bit. But it's, like I said, extended education. But I was guaranteed by my my last tutor, that there's a place for me at Osgith Academy, studying the arcane. Just got a bit
Correct me if
sidetracked,
I'm
I
wrong,
suppose.
DM. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
But did we actually encounter Osgith back in where the tournament was held?
Rotberg.
Mhm.
Ropeburg.
Yes.
I don't know if you went. I know that she did. I don't know who was with you
Yeah,
guys.
like Emmy and
Boltzmann was with her.
Boltzmann was with her. I don't know if the whole group, but yeah, they
No,
definitely
not the whole group.
right. You know that they went off on their own, and you know that Boltzmann was after that meeting was explaining to you the building itself and kind of they met these wizards that they played this little game with of arcane energy, watching it, and it was quite fascinating.
So I heard you and Boltzmann went to Osgith.
Yes, we were just looking around the campus and seeing what was going on, but they were closed that day because of the King's battle.
I mean, you could have parted ways. Why didn't you?
She looks down again and she's actually like, it might be a little hard to tell, but she's like blushing a little bit. She says, "Well, what good is it sitting around waiting when there's things to do and things to learn in the meantime? You don't necessarily need to just rush to the end. Sometimes the journey is part of the excitement, and y'all are plenty of excitement." I do plan to go back.
Oh.
She's still looking down, like fiddling, like twiddling her thumbs. When this is all said and done and everything is safe, of course, I suppose, I do plan on going back. That's where I'm supposed to be. And that's where I'll get all the information I'm sure I need. Ever dream of.
Bran kind of scans the room for a minute, kind of glazing over to where Dante is and possibly where Boltzmann is tinkering with his armor and Saoirse with her bow and her soup, most likely. And Bran will kind of return his gaze over to Emmy, and he kind of sticks his spoon into the soup and unconsciously starts circling around it. You do know, Emmy, this journey's gonna be dangerous, right?
I'm used to that. I have traveled with other folks and seen all kinds of things. How much worse could this really be?
There's a little bit of a pained wince on Bran's face as she says, "How bad can it be?"
Dante chuckles off to the side.
Well, quite dangerous, Emmy, and I just want you to realize that. Traveling with us is there's a possibility that you might not be able to go back to Osgith.
But we're gonna make sure that that's not going to happen. Right?
I mean, yeah, of course. I want her to be aware.
She's looking between Bran and Dante, and probably only just now recognizing like an age difference. And she kind of chuckles a little bit herself and says, "Oh, you sound just like my daddy."
She called you daddy.
That's right.
Which one?
Bran looks like everybody's daddy. It's okay.
Yes.
Bran, I just want to make that distinction.
Dante's assuming it was Bran because he still looks like he's 20 or something like that.
He's a little bit of a baby boy.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Beautiful baby boy.
He's beautiful, that's for sure.
No one said he was bad on the eyes. But she actually didn't look at either of you. I think she assumed that you'd understand she was talking about Branimir.
Yeah. Bran would just kind of chuckle a little awkwardly and maybe hunch over a little bit, like, God damn it.
Y'all might have issues with colloquialisms.
Does that mean I get to call you Papa?
I only.
No, Bran just kind of like points a finger. That does not give you permission.
They say Papa closer to the coast, back in the country area where I'm from. It's just your daddy and your mama.
Speaking of your, well, yes. Anyway, speaking of your parents, are they still with us, or what was your family like?
Well, actually, well, no. No, they're not. I'm traveling on my own now. I'm a big girl.
No siblings?
No. My
Is this
parents
too personal?
She realized that she was starting to answer kind of instinctually anyway, and then when Cam asked that, she kind of realized she was saying a lot. Her eyes kind of widened a little bit, and she just kind of laughs it off. Well, y'all are always sharing like your big old diaries.
Oh, there's really not much to share, really. But if you have any questions for us, we'd be glad to answer. But you first.
Oh, I see. I suppose that's my privilege, huh? As the new one. Well, no, I was saying my parents were a little bit older. A fair bit older when I was around. So, no, it's just me. No other siblings.
So you basically grew up without family?
Oh, no. My parents didn't pass till a little more recently. Maybe a year ago, I lost my daddy. Before that, I suppose it was a few years before that. My mama had passed, but I was already grown and in my studies, and honestly, without the siblings, there was no distractions at home for me. It was just study all the time, and that's why I'm so good at what I do. And she kind of like makes a little spark at her finger with her cantrip, as if showing it off, having it dance a little.
Well, do you have any questions for us? See, I think the reason as to why you're so just to yourself is because you don't really know us. Maybe this is a good opportunity to actually learn from each other.
Oh, well, I suppose if this is as dangerous as it sounds, well, won't get far enough to share nobody's secrets. She kind of gives a grim little laugh. No, I suppose I don't know much about any of y'all. I've overheard a conversation or two, but
Ask away.
she's like, she almost fumbles, like she doesn't know where to. She wouldn't even know where to begin without saying like, "Hey, let me, get an essay of everyone's life and jot it down for memory." You like to talk, Camille? What should I know?
Oh, Camille kind of just she stops and realizes where she put herself in, and she's like, And she looks at Bran.
You did this to yourself.
All right, let me make it easier for you then. I bet I just spit it right back at you. As far as, I guess, being on this adventure, this Shadow Queen, is that where y'all were always headed? Or were y'all meeting up and happened to cross each other?
Yes, that's correct. I actually met Branimir, Boltzmann, Dante, and Saoirse on the way. I was the new one before you, so
She's
A
the
little more
baby.
alike than we thought.
She's the baby.
I'm not the baby.
Don't look like
I
a
wish
baby.
to see the baby.
I don't want to kick the baby. No. Dante's just sort of like, okay, sure.
I mean, you could ask. Actually, I never really asked. How did you all meet each other?
Like magic.
Bran kind of coughs
Emmy's
into
eyes
his
perk
soup.
up for a moment.
Clearly, he was being facetious.
Disappointed sigh. Carry on.
How did we meet, Bran?
Bran just kind of tries to avoid the conversation
sure?
by looking up at the ceiling.
Come on, Bran, you must remember. You were all talkative that night.
I don't know.
You were very
I don't
talkative that
recall
night.
much. No, I don't recall much actually.
I think it's one of the few times I've actually seen you drink. The first time I met you.
Admittedly, it was a bad roll.
I think, Bran... Well, I came across
Wasn't
Bran
there
and
something
Boltzmann.
about a succubus?
Yeah, we get it. Yeah,
Nope.
basically, yeah. Yeah, succubus.
I don't
He did brag about a dragon, too. Said something about a dragon.
Regardless, I found Boltzmann. Came across a few others on this journey who are not with us any longer. Well, wait, don't get me wrong. Don't give me that look. They didn't die. They just parted ways because they had their own things to do. Boltzmann here has been with me since almost the beginning.
She looks over at Boltzmann for a moment and then looks back at Bran.
And I came across Dante, and well, it was not the most proudest moment.
I thought it was great, Bran.
I wish to forget that moment. Actually,
I thought you did. You drank that much. I didn't think you remembered the.
What happened?
We were tasked with finding a missing individual. Dante, if you recall.
Oh, I do. Yes.
And skipping into the future, we then found Saoirse. And we had that's where we also found Addie. My dear sweet.
As I recall, I
baby.
found all of you
Yeah, you did.
in the woods,
Of course
running
she
from
did.
owl bears.
Something like
No
that.
thanks
Taking
to
one
me,
as a
I do
souvenir?
believe. No thanks to Bran, I think, because I think he failed a... What was it? Like a stealth check?
Yeah.
He was making so much
We're
noise.
clanking through the forest.
Yeah.
You do that a lot, Bran.
The cleric makes so much noise we could have shot him in the dark.
And I do
Camille
believe
actually
Saoirse
laughs at
did.
that.
I do believe Saoirse wanted to make me into a pincushion at some point.
Oh, I can see that. She's queen. Have you not seen her? Look at her.
Saoirse is
She
rather
still
deft
has
with
that
bow.
feather in her braid that Camille gave her.
Oh.
Not sure what condition the feather is in after the knack incident, with all the mud and muck and.
Oh,
This
I can
pristine
help
white
with
feather.
that
Wash your
though.
hair.
I can help with that because I now have prestidigitation. So if we wanted to clean up the feather a little, I could help with that.
Saoirse may take you up on that.
Oh, there you go. Level 10, baby. Emmy's honestly just kind of enjoying. Like, she's at the start she was very tense, very obvious, probably, and I think she's notably lightened with other people talking, and so she's laughing as well and just kind of taking in these stories, like to the point where she's even like forgotten about her grimoire and her bowl, and she's just sitting there with the others.
And yeah, for the sake of time, I'll just have Bran rant on about the rest of the adventures.
Dante will pop in every now and then, cut in every now and then with like
Correct him.
little corrections or embellishments here or there.
Of course.
Embellishments is correct.
There's that one time Dante actually got a smooch.
I thought that was you. That was you, Bran.
One time?
That was you, Bran.
Wait.
Remember that time back at the inn when you actually tried?
No.
You actually
Wait.
See, this is this thing that Dante does. He likes to reflect.
Deflect.
I would
Correct.
say
Brand
reflection is
points
more of
with
an
this, yeah.
elven feature.
Bran points with his spoon. I stand corrected.
Thank you.
something about not being blue or something, or you being blue. I don't know. Something bounced off me onto you.
Did seem rather sweet on that one lady,
Which one?
the pregnant one.
Oh no.
Oh, this is before. This is not a pregnant woman.
I thank you very
Oh,
much.
It's as
oh,
far
so
as
there was
we
an
know.
opportunity for him there. I'm sorry you missed it.
Oh.
I'd like to know which one we're talking about, Bran.
Well, a certain scholar that we may or may not have met in the process of getting our dear Addie here.
Baller.
Yeah.
What?
Who is this?
I don't have my notes with me, but he knows the name. He's actually no. Sorry.
Liv Lagura.
So Dante's just like, I think it was like he starts clicking his feet like Louise or something.
Oh, you're terrible.
Louise.
Oh, you're absolutely terrible.
He's got a smile on his face though. Louise, I think it's Louise. No? Laura.
Stop teasing. And
Is she
Camille's
from
just
this
like,
area? I might
It's
need to speak
Liv.
with her.
It's Liv,
Yeah, she's
and I
very
dare
nice.
say he broke her heart.
Oh, Dante.
Dante.
How? You didn't tell her anything, did you, Bran?
Bran just kind of chuckles.
Oh, where did this happen?
Look.
Might need to find this woman.
Well, actually, that's a good idea. We could have a look in and see if she's still at Volk's Point.
You're just going to break her heart again, knowing you.
What do you mean? I think I'm doing her a favor, not. Well, what was the last? It was your message, Bran. That like the last time we spoke to her. You're the one who sent
Don't
her
you
a message.
bring me into this.
Well, you're all in there. You're all in, Bran. You're all in. I didn't break anybody's heart. She's not naive. She's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Don't
that
go
If there's
breaking
something-
girls' hearts,
if
Dante.
there's something
How about
starry-
you?
that starry-eyed look of hers. Yeah.
Talk. Starry-eyed.
That puts you on
She
the
was-
lowest levels of hell.
I believe she used me just to get the adventure, to tell you the truth.
Hmm. That is what a man would say.
Well, nothing happened.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't do anything. He just looks at
Then
the
there
others.
was that lady
Tell
from the
her.
Birds of Prey.
Oh, yeah, that was a big moment. Yes.
Oh yeah, and he was doing this thing where he usually does in the morning. You know, he takes off his top and he starts like prancing around like a little pony, a really muscular pony,
Usually,
and
yeah.
then he pretends like no one's watching him, and
He
that's how he
actually
gets the
used-
ladies.
No, that's just not
He
in.
actually used his card trick.
Oh, the card trick.
Yes,
that
he
one
did
too.
start off with cards.
I haven't
If I
used those
recall when
cards
we
in a
first
while.
met. It's been a little while. I recall when we first met, you had a hand of cards with you.
I still
a
do,
deck of
and he whips
cards.
them out. Uses
no. Oh, those are the
one hand to
ones.
shuffle them around a little bit. Yeah, that's still
Those
there.
are the ones.
Don't
You
take
two
him
were
up
so
on his
adorable
offer.
that day.
I don't know what you're talking about, Bran.
You'll fall in love.
I have not
I know him
broken.
too well. Couldn't have that happen.
I never break hearts. Thank you very much. I'm all gentlemen.
Good. Good. Hope it stays that way.
Exactly. It will.
And then
It
there's
always does.
Saoirse.
What did she get up to?
Oh, that's right.
Bran kind of grins a little bit at the at the weird.
So sure, is there something you haven't told us?
No. You remember the both of you were playing the part of couples, and
Yes.
yes, and she made you so uncomfortable because you cannot handle a masculine lady. You all red in the face.
Excuse me. I don't remember it that way. What are we talking about? I remember that we masqueraded as a couple. It was a masquerade. It wasn't. Did you think we were serious or something?
Well, I never said that, but
It sounds like it.
You surely seemed a little uncomfortable, is what I'm saying.
That's not how I saw it, or how I remember the night.
Of course, you
I
tried
don't
to
think I
forget it.
remember the night.
No,
Why we take well-documented notes.
you don't remember
Yes,
later on in the night. That's for sure.
was
You were very,
plastered.
you were very plastered. Isn't that? Oh no, was that the night? Or was that? I think that's when I gave you that sword, the short sword.
I think so too.
One of those
yes.
nights.
Yes, yeah,
It's a good
yeah,
place.
it was one
Nice
of those
bath.
nights.
But I think you're clutching at straws, Camille.
This is why we take well-documented notes, and then we never forget what happened.
Exactly.
I'll be sure to take notes for y'all from now on. I'll keep a very strong record of everything Dante says to a woman. See if he really breaks her heart.
Anything Dante does
Interpreted
is
in multiple
unforgettable.
languages.
Well, I don't forget it. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The tales of Dante.
You've been looking at my book.
Emily was about to say I'll start writing that book right now.
He like pulls,
Those are my
Famous one-liners.
he actually pulls out this little red journal that he's got. He just like flips through it real quick and then just looks at Bran and puts it back in his back in his belt.
Isn't there a euphemism about tails? Spelled like Tails. Is that the kind of tales in the book that Dante's writing, or is it actual stories?
Sounds like it belongs in one of my books.
I'm writing one.
Is it a long tail?
No, they're quick and to the point.
I guess basically, is it the kind of book Camille would want to read, or?
Oh no,
No doubt.
I have standards, so
No
I
doubt.
don't read his stuff.
I've seen some of that smut you read, Camille.
How dare you! You take it back.
No, I can write better than
It is
that.
smut. It is smut.
See,
Cameo.
It's literature, and I am feeding authors.
that's a technicality, Camille.
I don't
That
even
it's
know what that
literature.
means.
This book club needs to happen. I remember I brought up book club before. I think we should absolutely continue that idea.
I think the books you read are a little too smart for me, and I am just going to fall apart at the seams.
Oh, no. Not every fiction is as detailed as I can handle. It's fine. We'll find something that works for you, too.
She looks at Bran.
We'll take a look at the next city we're in. After we, I suppose,
God damn.
pour it off to somewhere else first. And
We're going to Patreon.
Do you want to know the truth, though?
always.
I don't really read the books. I just pretend to. It's just to put everyone off. It's funny.
I don't believe that for a
Insight
second.
check. Insight check. I want to do an insight check immediately.
Yeah, I want to as well, even though it's a +1. I'm doing it.
Go ahead.
Insight. Ooh, wisdom +5. You didn't take a.
22.
Hey.
And he rolls a 22 on that insight check. Roll a deception, I guess, or is
Oh
it true?
gosh,
I didn't think her wisdom was that high.
it's true. She doesn't.
Unless
read
she has
the
a
books.
proficiency. Oh, it's just true.
She did.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one time she actually like purposely was caught with the book, but it was upside down.
Yes.
So yeah, that was
Oh,
abundantly
and
clear
he,
to
like-
Bran that she
Yeah.
doesn't read.
I mean, just like her jaw drops and there's like a look of actual like heartache at the thought of a book going ignored. Like, you really don't read any of those books.
Well, I
Really?
read, like the
Blessing,
first
really.
few,
The smut.
the first few pages. Here. Why don't you give it a read and tell me if it's any good? It's absolute trash, is what it is.
Well,
She
here's
hands
another
over the
idea.
book.
Which book
And
did
Emmy
you give her?
takes it.
Cam.
Yes.
Which book did you give her?
Oh my god, I had 2 books, correct?
You have 3 books.
I have 3 books. Oh no, I am not taking notes of all the. I have notes.
There is in our Discord. There's a Books of Tribus that has every book that I've given out and who got it.
Books
Pretty
of Tribus.
Woman.
All right, here we go.
I Love You to the Moon and Back.
I think it was Pretty Woman.
And then there was one extra one before that we didn't title because it's. Oh no, we did title it because I made it up on the spot. It was the Dusk, the Dawn.
Oh
something
yes.
About
it was
ducks?
that was no. That was the last one. That was Lord of the Wings.
Oh. That was so good.
Which brand fumbles to get out, by the way? When at the mention of book club.
And in
Yes.
the
Love
momentum
Before
of-
Morning. Love Before Morning was the name
Love
of your
Before
smut
Love
book.
Before Morning. Yeah.
Is that the one that she hands over?
Yeah, the smut book. That was the first spine.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And just sorry.
Give it a read and tell me if the first few paragraphs make any sense to you. Because I'm sorry, but no.
Well, I have an even better idea. How about we just sit and read it together, and I'll go through it with you, and I will point out if, in fact, there are any. I will point out any literary egregious moments, and also anything that is worth noting that we could learn from. Because regardless, the beauty of a story, and she starts going on, the beauty of a
Brand
story
starts
is
putting away the
that
book.
it is, in fact, based on real life experiences, just us as people. And so when you bring out the fiction, it makes it more palatable for us when they can't
And
Dante's taking off his
What?
shirt.
get your shirt back on, you rascal.
This is how Dante copes.
Go.
Like, I'm going for.
Kimmy,
I'm going for
you
a
take
jog.
the book and you open it randomly to the middle, and the first words that you read are heaving bosom.
Beautiful. See, literary masterpiece. And then she continues the paragraph.
Yeah, well,
Detailed. See, this author has an incredible skill with detail of the anatomy. It's just, this is phenomenal. Huh.
Well,
So
Cameo
it's an
kind of.
anatomy textbook.
I do need some of those. She kind of says offhand.
Well, you can keep the book, but I don't think it's appropriate that you read such a thing to me at all, unless you're trying to say something.
She looks like she's honestly a little confused for a moment because her mind is straight on books. Like, oh, we can start with a different book if you'd rather. And she closes that one and puts it in her pack.
Did you say you couldn't
Well-
read, or that you don't read these books?
I read. I mean, not that well. It's not like I can pick up a book in the forest.
I'm not. I just wanted to clarify because yeah. I just the way you said it, I was just thought you were having fun at our expense, but yeah, that's how I saw it.
And bringing up the sex at the library, that was hilarious.
That was pretty
I can't
funny.
believe y'all fall for that.
The sex.
The sex.
The
yes.
sex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dante's still taking off his shirt. He's going for a jog.
All right.
Someone's getting
Well,
comfortable.
well, unless you have any other questions for us, we can retire for the night.
And she kind of is almost like back in reality. And she probably doesn't mean, she might be blushing a little. She'll probably just blame it on the very warm and delicious soup. Which she's had definitely more than one additional bowl.
Oh, hell yeah.
She agrees. She says, and if it's still all right, if I could stay upstairs in the observatory, just little. I might do a little looking before I go to sleep.
So you'll be staying there by yourself. You're comfortable with that?
Yeah, everyone needs a little privacy every now and then. I sleep better when it's a little quieter. Some people snore.
Oh,
She winks over at Dante.
Oh, yes, he talks in his sleep too.
Oh dear.
I want to know
That must
how
be
she knows that,
entertaining.
or how she can make that claim.
Oh, because I watch you in your sleep, Dante.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Should I start
You're quite
sleeping
ugly.
naked more than often than I
No,
do? or-
absolutely not. I have seen you
Maybe then
naked
she'll read the
once, and that's fine.
More than once.
More than once, yes.
Well, he's a beautiful specimen.
Dante just sort of stands there for a second, and as he sort of stretches, he's like every muscle on his body just sort of twitches a little bit. Yes.
And he knows it. He's like a peacock is what he is.
Sometimes.
Uh-huh. Well, if it's all the same, then
Starts doing push-ups.
and she actually yawns, but also dramatizes it a little. But she actually does legitimately yawn. Says, I've got to go sit up a little bit, and I can't get to sleep without my nightly reading, which is honestly what I'm doing most of the time anyway. It's just reading. Never a bad time for that. But Fran, the soup was delicious. Thank you. And I guess we'll discuss where we're heading in the morning.
Finally,
Right.
appreciation.
What?
Oh, Emmy, if there's anything you want to know, just ask.
I will keep that in mind. She's
Okay.
kind of half grinning a little, still a little confusion on her face, but generally, like, she's starting to stiffen up a little bit. Like, it's still a little odd. But she curtsies deeply to everyone and then heads back up to the observatory. If it's not in, well, she's also going to, once she's inside, she's also going to set up her alarm spell. Not for everyone to see. It's just one of the things she does. She's going to set up her alarm spell.
Actually, before that happens, Brand's just gonna call after Emmy, who's probably already out of the room, but he's just gonna shout, I do plan on using the orb later.
She keeps that in mind.
We need to talk. We need to discuss that because, yeah, we need to work out exactly what we're doing with the orbs.
Everyone needs to get some sleep first.
Okay. And as you guys go off in your separate ways, Emmy into the observatory and everyone else kind of settling in and finding a place, that is where we're going to take our break. So we will be back in about 10 minutes. Before we do, I do want to call out, last week we did not, it was my fault, we did not call out our subs, which we had 2 of. The Big Juicy 89, thank you last week for your tier 1 sub for 4 months. Thank you. Thank you very much, Juicy, for that. Thumper, subscribe already for 9 months. That is amazing. Thank you very much, Thumper, for that, Ryan. And we did have a new follow today. Pio Nova. Thank you for the follow earlier today. We don't interrupt roleplay, but thank you. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you are finding our look back into Tribus a little bit of entertaining, and hopefully stick around, and we will come back in about 10 minutes and follow it up with some more good stuff. Yeah. So let's continue. Let's jump back into it. So as you guys are preparing for the evening, Emmy, you walk into the observatory. We'll do this in kind of do it in steps. So is there anything that you're going to do besides the observatory, or is that what you want?
Well, she was going to the observatory because that's where she had asked to stay. I think she assumed that we weren't going to start looking at things until after everyone slept, so she just wanted to use it as a sleeping space.
Okay, so we can fast forward to the morning. If
I mean, I'm trying to think if she might actually do her peeking overnight. She might actually look around on the stone. While the others are asleep. Or at least like she goes in, she sets her alarm spell, she's setting up, and then I think she's gonna take a quick peek. Because what she wants to look at, she like doesn't. It's not about their journey. It's more just for her.
Okay. So what would you like to take a look at?
You cut it.
Sorry. What would you like to take a look at?
She would like to first look back at her city. She wants to look back at Kokek.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Roll. Where's my list? So you've already figured out kind of how the machine works, so I won't make you do that again. Roll a wisdom or survival check to figure out if you can find out where you're.
So it's either straight wisdom or survival?
Yes.
Okay. I think her wisdom is better. Oh, no, it's still just +1.
Yep.
Hey, dirty 20s.
Okay. You are kind of easily able to navigate this. You kind of zoom out and kind of see Amma as a whole and zoom in a bit. Kind of look around where you are, where you follow the coastline, and then you find Krokik. It's been longer than you remembered, and at first, even though you see there's some familiarity to this place, you don't recognize some of the places just because once you kind of adjust and you see some of the more familiar things, it kind of snaps your head that this is where you were remembering. There's some familiar places that you remember your mother taking you, quick trips as a very young girl into town. The docks here is kind of first what you see. They're quite big. For a quaint little town, the docks area seems much busier than you ever remember. Known for cargo and being like a transportation dock where big ocean ships kind of move items onto smaller boats so that they can sail downriver. This town kind of serves that purpose of being that transportation hub for this kind of west coast of Amma. You see an entirely new set of docks serving only passenger ships. You see a large line of what looks like immigrants coming in, carrying all manner of boxes and sacks kind of filled with collections of their entire lives. You scroll through town, you see a row of bars and inns that are right there at the docks, and you kind of scroll through and see some familiar places in the market that you remember going to. Just outside of town, you see a very familiar, not manor, but you see a manor, not a grand house, but not a farmhouse as well. A simple home, but still not your basic farmland. This is a step up from that, a little bit more refined materials and much better craftsmanship. You can see that this is a well-crafted home, and it is home to you. You remember you and your parents being in this place. As you kind of move around this fairly large house, you kind of look inside. You look, kind of move to the interior. You move and you see the kitchen area. You look to the far side of the room, where it kind of opens into a living area with a mantle, and you see a portrait, a large painting hanging over the fireplace, with both of your parents and you. It seems that for whatever reason, even though your parents have long passed, the house is still being somewhat maintained, and it is still their materials that are still within it. It looks almost as if one day it just stopped being a living quarters, but it has never moved on to be anything else. There's no signs of injury. There's no signs of living there, and there's no signs of anyone that has been there. But it doesn't look touched. It looks like a time capsule of whatever those last days of your father being there by himself.
She's looking at this and doesn't realize that she sort of started like tearing a bit, just watching it as if she had painted it herself in her own grimoire. And she stares for a while until she wants to look at one other thing in this semi-unfamiliar city. She kind of has this bit of a sunken heart feeling of like even home, she doesn't really feel like she belongs. Even in a place she's supposed to be able to call home. She wants to scroll back and see if there's one particular person, a man, he might still be in the home she knew him to be in. What he's doing with his life.
Would this be the tutor?
You
Or
know,
would this be the...
she was being more conceited, but you know, she might need to look at him too, if she could find him. But I know he disappeared so suddenly.
So I know
but
you're talking.
The other man.
Roll a perception check.
Perception it is. Perception is much better. I can't even use portent because it's not didn't do the long rest yet. Another dirty 20.
Okay. So you go back, move yourself back, your view back into town, and begin to look around. Familiar haunts, maybe places that you know that he would be interested in, or at least was with your time with him. You at one point you see the back of a head, dark-haired, very kind of finer cloak, nothing too elaborate, but a finer cloak, and you get excited and you move in and you swirl the camera around to the other side, and you realize that it is not him. Just a mistaken identity. Continue to look through some of the places closer to the docks, some of the bars, some of the taverns. But after a good 20 minutes of looking, you do not see. You do not find it.
She just sort of thinks probably for the best. It's just being childish. Would she have any idea where the tutor might have been?
You know where you had last seen him.
You could start there.
You scroll back out towards the main road, and you move a ways down, a good couple of hours of walking distance, but you're able to scroll it fairly quickly, and till you get to what was a little, almost a building that was on not near the side of the road, but a little side street or a little side entranceway that you turn off into, and you follow down the path into the clearing, and you see that this place where you had been was never very large. It was more like a similar size to what your house would be, but it was more adapted to taking in students, even though during your time there you were the only one. You look around, and after you turn into the clearing and into the entrance, you do not see the building standing. The building is no longer standing. You just see the rubble and kind of footprint of what this building used to be. For whatever reason, this is no longer a place. It is no longer existing. It has been torn down.
torn down, or does it look like it's been destroyed, like razed?
Roll another perception check.
Okay. $18.
18, it looks intentionally demolished. You can tell by some of the bricks, the way that they're still standing. It looks like someone has intentionally kind of leveled this place.
That she notes that is definitely disappointing. But she contemplates this, and she lets go of the stone and sits back. So she'll be up for a little while, but eventually will fall asleep, or if the alarm lets her know someone's approaching for the thing, I guess that'll wake her up. But otherwise, she's gonna sit back with her medical textbook that she had taken from Wonderkeep, and I guess do that until sleep. Still a little bit teary-eyed.
Anyone else doing anything this evening?
Bran would actually like to see if he could check something on the orb.
Okay.
So, considering the conversation that was had earlier with like the past and everyone's memories, Bran kind of looks into his soup after like a majority of the group have either done their thing, and I assume Dante has already left for his jog, and Boltzmann is tinkering in the corner with his armor, and is Saoirse still up?
Yeah, Saoirse would probably still be up. She would have been, if they had decided to, whether or not they had decided to keep watch, she would have taken at least the first watch.
Okay.
Probably gone up a ways toward the entrance.
Okay. And yeah, so Bran would be at the fire, and he'll try to put away his utensils and, put everything away and store it. Is Camiel still up?
Camiel is actually resting on your back, like back to back with you, and she's finally stitching because DM, if you remember, she had that little book and she hasn't done any stitching for a while, so that's what she's doing right now. Yeah, she's fully awake and leaning against Branimir.
Okay. So I suppose you'll feel like sudden movement because Bran has been quite still for a couple of hours, so there will be sudden movement, and I think there will be a heavy sigh escape from his lips before he just mutters, "Hey Cam. You still up?"
Yeah, I'm trying to stitch. You're moving around. Now my badger looks terrible.
Would Bran be able to lean over and see
No,
what this
no.
quote-unquote badger looks like?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Ah, shit.
So
Do I need to roll for anything?
He'll tilt his head over like, well, are you trying to hide it?
Perception versus sleight of hand.
Oh shit! Now she's not trying to hide it. We're trying to see if her badger looks like a badger.
After her little beetle incident, which he still has. So yeah, how bad is it, Camiel? How bad is this badger?
Roll a performance check and see.
Shit. All right.
You can either roll a
It
looks for us.
It's a really good badger.
Yeah, there you go.
So Bran leans over and he sees the thing that she was working on, and he actually does see a very realistic looking badger.
Do you like it?
This is definitely a hidden talent of yours, Cam.
Well, it's you. You're the badger.
Thank you.
Well, you are a badger. I mean, it's got like salt and pepper hair, just like you. You work too hard, and yeah. Look.
Bran just Bran just kind of like there's like a cloud over Bran's eyes as she mentions the salt and pepper hair. It's like and Emmy calling him some sort of father figure of the group. He's just it's making him feel a little bummed. But he blows it off, and he actually does appreciate the stitching that she is doing. But
But yeah, what was it?
But as soon as that, the smile kind of fades, and you would notice that he is looking a little different. Like he looks down. All this talk about our pasts and you see him kind of visibly like wring his hands as he's talking. We have this orb, and we can see anything, or at least that's what I'm getting from Boltzmann speak and Emmy speak. I was thinking I'd like to take a look at some things, and he kind of lowers his eyes a little bit. I'm not sure if I can do it alone.
Camiel has obviously put away the stitching, and she has sat cross-legged, watching him and noticing that the demeanor has changed, and she's watching him intently and nodding. And as he mentions that he wants to see something, she tosses the fabric away, just under her armor that she has put in the corner. Oh, all right. Well, I can. I mean, if you'd have me, I'd love to be there for you.
You don't have to do anything. You can actually just stand in a corner if need be, but I'm not sure how I'm gonna handle it.
Well, I'll be there.
And Bran will smile, and like a genuine smile. He appreciates what she's doing, and I think he'll make his way over to where the observatory is.
Okay. So Emmy, your alarm goes off as you see Branimir and Camiel come into your space.
Oh, she there's like a bell chiming in her head, obnoxious chiming in her head, that pops her up. She had half fallen asleep with the medical textbook open, which she slams it shut, sees them come in, remembers where she is for a moment, and she starts to wipe at her face. And then she sees that there's some smudging on her glove where she was wiping, to which she quickly lowers her head, grabs the book, and says, she's looking down, book held close to her, and she says, sorry, right, you said you wanted to come in here. Don't mind me. I will be right downstairs. Unless you needed me for something, I'll be downstairs. A little bit flustered, and she goes past them down the steps. She doesn't look back.
Would Bran be able to? Is her face like pointed downwards to the ground?
Yes, she's looking right down at her feet. Stairs.
Yeah, there's no way.
I'll have you roll a perception check at disadvantage.
Well, should I even bother? I was gonna say it wouldn't be possible anyway, because Bran's a little tall. That's
Oh.
a
Just
C.
never know. Oh.
Nope.
5. No.
Nope.
Nope,
You,
that
That was
is a-
almost
that
an
is definitely
18.
no.
your emotional demeanor is kind of focusing on that, so you
Yeah.
play off Emmy's weirdness as just Emmy's weirdness, and
It's Emmy being Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he kind of fumbles with his words as Emmy kind of brushes past them, but eventually he just gives up and just shrugs his shoulders and just assumes that it's Emmy being Emmy. And he makes his way over to the orb, kind of meekly, like his shoulders are sagged a bit as if he's approaching something that he's fearful of and yet also curious about.
I'll
How would
have
he
you
be
make
able to?
I'll have you make a check. But as soon as your hand touches the ball itself, you see this. You see basically the outline of basically the footprints of these buildings that have looked like they've been destroyed. You don't know the location. You don't know anything about it. You just see that this image is there. And it kind of catches you off guard because you remember the first time touching it being inside the mountain or inside the room, and then fading out to the mountain, scrolling back to the mountain. But now you're looking at basically the last image that was up, and that's where you start your process. Roll need 2 rolls from you. Give me
Oh boy.
give me one, either intellect check or sleight of hand check, to be able to figure out how it works and be able to navigate properly. Make that one first.
Oh no. Okay, here's my measly one.
Dante could help.
You're out jogging.
The wizard can help.
Oh! Whoa!
Sleight of hand.
Whoa!
You move your hand
Magic
back
Mike fingers.
and
You had to spoil it. You had to spoil it.
Hey!
as soon as your hand touches it, you see this outline, and you take a moment and you move your hand slightly, and you're actually able to control the view fairly precisely. You kind of move your fingers and kind of zoom out to a higher perspective. Kind of zoom out, and you can see the outline of a coast that you're not 100% sure where. You continue to scroll out, and you can kind of, basically, you are familiar with the map of Amma and are able to distinguish where you're at, kind of on the coastline. You scroll back and you move over. I'll have that count as your other check as well, since it was so high. Where exactly would you like to look first?
Before I do that, since we were able to kind of share, particularly with Emmy, and she mentioned a coastline city, and I was able to, or at least Bran was able to see that this was a coastline in Amma, would he be able to maybe surmise that?
I would say that you would deduce, for an instant, you kind of take your hand off, being just surprised on how easily you can control it. You take a look at your hand, the image fades, and when you put your hand back on, the image comes back exactly where it was. So putting 2 to 2 together, I believe that you could piece that together, that was the last place that she was looking. If she had looked, that would have been, it would have made sense. You have no idea what it is. There was no clues around the place to be able to identify it. But yeah, you could tell that it was from her.
Okay. So, after fiddling around with this orb and finding, despite his lack of knowledge of the arcane, he managed to somehow work this thing quite well. Is it sort of like like a mouse, it's mostly about touch, or is it something where you have to mentalize, like you have to envision what the place looks like?
No, it is not a mental fortitude. It is a purely navigational. This is you sitting on Google Street View and kind of scrolling about and looking where you want to look.
I see. So
it is basically positioned so that it is positioned to the axis of the world. So of the globe itself, this would be one point on that globe that kind of you use this big trackball in the middle to be able to navigate.
I see. Okay. So I'd say Bran is very familiar with Patrium, or at least the layout of Patrium, or at least the map. Would that be safe to say?
Roll a survival check.
Okay. Survival. The hell is my survival? Okay. That is an 11. Well,
yeah, it's enough where you are able to, with your control, you're able to find the coastline of Patrium fairly easily, the Gold Coast, and are able to look. Where specifically are you looking for in the coast?
Bran is going to see if he can find the remains of the farmstead.
Okay. So as you kind of scroll around, you find yourself looking, like I said, at the Gold Coast of Patrium. And there's a few kind of haunts that kind of pass your mind, but you decide not to look. Some because of their importance, some because you'd like to forget. So you kind of focus in on the area that you kind of want to reflect on. But you'd also know that it's the most out of the way. So the location you're looking for is kind of difficult. No major landmarks, no big cities nearby. It takes you a while, but eventually you find a familiar road, a familiar path that you remember traveling to get supplies once a month. You move quickly down the path and eventually find a farmhouse. Although the footprint is the same as you remember it, the structure is far from it. You remember ruins. You remember leaving burnt out one-story farmhouse. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into put the blood, sweat, and tears into it, being left to ash. But as you look at it now, a new structure stands. You see freshly prepared timbers and a wooden shingled roof taking up the previous footprint of the stone foundation that you helped install after a particularly bad rainy season. The house is different. It surprisingly looks better now, even than what you did, the work that you had put into it. It looks more finished, more complete. You hear calls from a female voice, and you swing your view around to see a female a bit away from the house. She's tending to a small vegetable garden. And as you kind of move towards it, you can see that this vegetable garden is situated beside the homestead. As she stands, she removes a large sun hat, and her blonde hair beneath cascades down her fairly broad shoulders. And for a moment, you're taken aback, as if you're looking at a ghost. But the woman turns towards the house, in your view, and you relax as this unfamiliar face begins to call out for someone inside the house before she steps onto the porch and out of the fairly harsh sun. As you kind of follow her, she passes into a new screen door painted bright white with only a small orange fox painted on top, a small token of blessing to the fox, common to see in farmhouses like these in Patrium. New beginnings, you think to yourself. Slowly and carefully, you move your view. Slowly, but a few hundred feet to the northwest, behind the homestead, where you see a very large olive tree, permanent marker. At the base of the tree is now tall grass, but after carefully positioning your view, you see the stones that peek through. An outline of a rectangle with a few large stones closest to the base of the tree. A marker where you had left the bodies. In that instant, Your head flashes back. You smell the pitch of sulfur, the burning. You hear the screaming coming from inside the blazing doorway, purposely blocked with multiple bales of now burning hay on the front door and windows. Fires fade. Screams trail off. Some ghosts are hard to get rid of. You fumble your fingers and it spins away from the image as quick as you can. In an instant, you are back. The Starcaster's observation deck, trying to catch your breath.
So yeah, Bran would, seeing this flash of images, seeing how detailed this observatory was, it was initially, it was always a little too much for Bran, but it was a mix of emotions for Bran as he steps back, because he immediately releases his hand from the orb and like steps maybe 3 steps backwards, and possibly even bumping into Camiel as he retracts from the vision. And Camiel, you can see Bran visibly distressed. Like, his breathing was calm at first and maybe even slow when particular parts of the vision were shown, but as it neared the end, his breathing quickened, and you can see his throat seize almost as he backs up, and he's just pretty much swallowing for air and clutching his head.
Camiel, you did see everything except for that last part.
I see. Okay.
You see the tree and you see the stones, but you don't see anything else. Everything else was internally for Bran.
I see. Okay. So while he's clutching his head, Camiel actually puts both her hands on top of his and try to get his attention. With because she didn't see what he was panicking over, so she is visibly confused. And she she clutches his hands and almost whispers, "Branimir."
Bran is like pretty much full on having a I suppose an anxiety attack. His eyes seem to like trail off in different directions. His breathing is hitched, and he seems to be lost in his own thoughts before having some sort of physical anchor bring him back to reality, and his breathing slowly returns, and his eyes finally meet Camiel's, and there's visible droplets of sweat coming down his face as he just sort of sighs and tries to recall the vision he had.
And she is looking up at him, just watching him, and she says, "I see you. What's wrong?"
It takes a few moments for him to recollect himself, and eventually he just utters one word: "Farmhouse." And I do believe Camiel had heard at least a bit of the story.
Mm-hmm. Is that what we were looking at earlier? The little house and the big tree, and was that the farmhouse?
Bran slowly nods and almost winces as if in pain, like physical pain, at the mention of the tree.
And Camiel looks down for a bit. And she puts her hands on his shoulders and just caresses it, like, gently. And she thinks for a moment, trying to come up with words to soothe him. It takes her a while before she goes, "Did you see something that I couldn't?"
I buried them there, Cam.
Betty too.
Those two. I couldn't save them. They reached out for me for help, and I couldn't save them. The one thing I'm good for in this world, and I couldn't even do that right.
Camille sighs. Well, I wouldn't understand that feeling. I'm sorry.
Bran kind of releases his grip on his head by just simply running his fingers through his hair, and as he tries to calm himself and realize where he is and try to distinguish between the vision and the reality that he's in now. And he seems to have calmed himself a bit, but there was definitely a change in his mental state, where Bran was usually the calm and collected individual that he is. You can see that there were some emotional wounds that were reopened from seeing this vision. Something that he thought he had left buried deep in his past. He tries to remember the other parts of the vision of the new building and of the woman who had almost a striking resemblance. He tries to think of the positive. The building that he saw was home to perhaps a new family, or someone else who would till those fields and take care of the area. And the thought of that, especially with his recent encounter with the Uplifter and what was... he found it calming, almost, that there is life anew.
After a few moments. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, and at the thought of that sort of life, Bran turns to Camiel and sort of tilts his head towards the orb itself. Why don't you give it a shot, Cam?
Camiel pauses and kind of takes a step back. Well, there's really nothing for me to say, really. I think I'm good.
Wouldn't you like to see home?
Camiel She visibly stiffens at the mention of home. And she looks away from Bran and looks at a spot on the ground. It's nothing but trees and grass and flowers. It's nothing special.
It's still home, Cam.
Camiel looks at Branimir and then she looks at the orb. And for a moment, there's a flash of longing there. And a mix of obvious fear. I don't know what I'm going to see. And I don't know if I'm ready.
Bran slowly nods at the mention of not being ready. And I know. But it could be nothing at all. Could probably look the same way it did when you left it.
Camiel sighs. Then she nods slowly. Okay. Don't make fun of me. And she says that playfully, but there's obvious discomfort. All right. Well, I'll give it a try. She approaches. Don't leave.
Go ahead and roll.
I'm not going anywhere, Cam.
Go ahead and roll a sleight of hand check and a survival check.
Jesus. All right. Well, sleight of hand. Oh, fucking hell. Okay. And the other one was survival?
Mhm.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay.
Not bad for 0.
Damn.
So your hand touches the ball, and because of the last action of Bran was to release and kind of move it and spin it, because he was violently pulling his hand away, you find yourself in the ocean. You scroll back, and it takes you a little bit to be able to get the hang of it. You kind of are, at one point you end up like in the ocean, and it takes you a while to figure out the controls and the mechanisms and the movements that it takes to be able to navigate correctly. And you pull back, and with Bran there, kind of there next to you, giving you a little bit of guidance, kind of directs you, pulls you back, so you can see more of a overview, a map view, if you will. And you know where to go. You scroll in, you kind of cut through the clouds into this deep forest that takes over a good portion of northern Ujat. You continue to scroll, and you begin looking, and at first you have difficulty finding the exact location. There's not a lot of landmarks, there's no cities or big things that kind of identify places. But eventually you do find a very specific grove, a very specific kind of area where the forest kind of bottom and kind of goes inward a bit. It's kind of almost rocky, almost grass in the middle of this forest area, in this clearing. And as you kind of move your way towards it, you, from from a distance see a very large tree, one of the largest in the forests. And it excites you. This is very familiar. And as you move towards it, you notice that something is off. The very familiar tree is not holding the very familiar nest. For whatever reason, roll a perception check.
Okay. Perception. Ah, come on.
Oh no.
Not one.
So as you're taking a look at this, you do know that your nest is no longer where it was. You kind of move towards the ground, trying to find any kind of identification of what may have happened, if it was natural or man-caused, or whatever the rationale would be for this to have happened. But you find no trace. You simply find your tree and no trace of you ever being.
As Camiel does this, you can see in her eyes that she's panicking a little as she's trying to look for the traces of her nest. And her eyes are glazing over as if she had just lost something very, very important. And Branimir can hear her muttering, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. Where is it?
Roll a perception check, Brad.
Oh no. Man. All these perception checks.
Whoa.
21.
Hey.
So as she's scrolling and as her emotions begin to raise, you see something in the corner of your eye, and you have her go back, and she scrolls back towards the trunk of the tree, and you see a symbol that is carved into the side of the tree. Camiel, you can read this as celestial,
Mm-hmm.
the word for your name.
Oh.
Is that what you're looking for?
She sees this, and she pauses for a bit, and you can see that she's getting emotional. She spaces out, just looking at this thing, as if a new memory has been unlocked. And she stays quiet and just gazing at this thing with wide eyes. And then she finally answers, I did that. I used to carve these things on the trees. It used to scare all the folk. It was funny. But this isn't what I was looking for. Don't know what happened to my nest. It used to be here. It was filled with trinkets, and it's gone.
I suppose with that 21 DM, would it be possible to see if Brand could see if there was like any sign underneath the tree, like maybe the nest could have fallen, or like any indication that maybe it withered away, like it fell off the tree, and I don't know.
Yeah, as she does move along and looks at looking for evidence herself. The only evidence that you see that of her being there or her impact there is the carving on the tree. The nest does not seem to be fallen out. It doesn't seem to be a random trinket or a piece of debris left behind. There doesn't seem to be anything.
How long ago have you left home?
I can't remember. And Camiel, almost like there was a shock to her hand, she pulls away.
And the images fade around you.
It's not important anymore. I don't belong there anymore.
I mean, we could always... Brand's just kind of like fumbling for a reason. I mean, we have the stone, and we have an artifact. He just kind of like closes his eyes as he's trying to remember where the artifact from Ujat was from, and he immediately just says Sladir Forest. I mean, that's nearby.
Camiel has spaced out. And she can hear him talking. And as he mentions, the artifact is there, like very close to Sladir. She looks at him. We're only there for the artifact. I outgrew that nest. It's not important anymore.
Brand looks like he wants to protest, but he thinks better of it, and he slowly nods. If that's what you want, Cam. The option still stands, though.
And as Branimir is talking, she slowly looks away from him and is in deep thought. That nest wouldn't have fallen over or fallen apart. I wasn't very good at tinkering, obviously. Where could it have gone? I didn't
Again.
have... I didn't have much. That was the only thing I had.
We could still investigate, Cam.
And then she looks at Bran. Her eyebrows are furrowed. And her eyes, which are kind of glazed over, now holds a look of almost anger. I think I know what happened to my nest. I think I know what happened to it. And she thinks and looks away from him, and she just mutters this over and over. I think I know. I think I know.
What do you know? What could have destroyed the nest?
She looks at him. It's personal business. But like I said, right? Nothing but trees and grass and flowers.
It was still your home, Cam. It's not out of the way.
We're only there for the artifact, Branimir. That is the only thing that we should be worried about. Anyway, now that I've seen my patch of land, and as she's saying this, it's forced. It's forced glee and forced positivity. What about you? Don't you want to see home?
Home? Brandon almost questions. Hell, I don't remember home. It's been so long. Do you know they conscript in Patrium? Yeah. Every young citizen has to serve the Patrium military at a certain point in their lives. It's supposed to teach them patriotism and I suppose a bit of responsibility. I left home before the conscription date. So, I don't remember much. And as he says that, there's a look of doubt on his face as a little bit of curiosity creeps up. And his hand kind of hovers over the orb a bit, and he hesitates, but eventually places his hand back on the orb. I think he'd like to see what happened, or maybe get some closure, or perhaps if his family is even still alive.
Okay.
Would I have to roll?
Roll another survival check.
Survival. Oh my god. That is not good.
So as you begin to scroll, you scroll back, leaving the glade, leaving the forest home, pulling back, again moving back towards Atrium or Gold Coast. Much more south than you were previously. You begin looking, and you believe that you find the place. You know the town. But as you kind of move into town, you see familiar haunts, vaguely familiar haunts. More things change than the same. Certain things the same. One of the docks looks very familiar. You scroll into town, following a path that you thought you remembered. Continuing to follow it outside of town, where your homestead was. And then continuing down the road, not finding what you're looking for. Realizing you've gone too far and scrolling back into town. You try again, you think of a different place, and you try to connect the dots of memory and try to find a new locale, and you push forward and scroll down and continue to scroll. And again, you've gone too far. This can't be as far as this. After about 10 minutes of looking, you cannot find what you remember to be your place. It's been too long. The memory's too fuzzy. Too many things changed for you to make the connections.
And as Bran fruitlessly tries to fumble through this town, this same town, he keeps going backwards. He turns around and it's still the same place, and eventually Bran he chuckles. It's a low chuckle, but I suppose Camille could see that his eyes did not share the same joy as he releases his hand from the orb, and he tries his best to smile. I figured as much. I'm sure they're fine. I mean, hard man, hard wife. It just 8 children. I mean, they can take care of themselves. I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Well, if we come out of this alive, we can go back, and maybe we can look for your family.
DM, is the location of Bran's home, I suppose, is it somewhat near Aura?
No, it is near Orthani, which is like the southern part. Aura is almost a city on its own on the far eastern side, closer to the border of of Amma.
I see, okay. The thoughts of the Shadow Queen and perhaps her ilk just marching their way further and further into Patrium, it makes Bran kind of hesitate for a moment before just simply replying with, yeah, it'll be there.
You promise?
I promise, Cam.
All right. Well, after all this is done, we can travel together.
Bran pauses for a minute. You don't have any paladin things to do in Ujat?
Oh, I'm sure Sister Ava won't mind.
Are you sure she declared you as her champion?
Well, I would most rather help a friend find his family. And when all that is done, I'll go back. But we already promised, so you can take it back.
Gonna be a long journey, Cam.
Well then, great. A new adventure.
7 other siblings.
Exciting.
The idea of Aura crosses your mind again, Brad. Again, looking at the orb. Questions and curiosities get the cross your mind?
I suppose we'll never get another chance at this. Bran returns to the orb and he places his hand on it, and I suppose he'll try to see if he can guide it towards Aura, to at least see the state of the area and how ravaged it is.
Okay. You touch your hand to the orb again, and again find yourself in this town you found yourself lost in. You scroll north, and then you begin to scroll east. And as you do, you kind of take the opportunity not just to zip ahead to where you're going, but to get a look. For the most part, anything near the Gold Coast as it was. Some places further out look worse for wear, torn up trees and black moss hanging from trees. But overall, nothing looks overrun. No menacing hordes, no large swaths of mysterious darkness causing emotions to feel escalated. None of those memories that you remember sometimes getting close to the Gold Coast. None of that is there. No immediate threat, as Lieutenant King would say. The further you get away from the cities, looking from higher up, the more things change. 1 or 2 days' ride from the coast, places where you know you fought battles, strongholds that the enemies had kept, all look abandoned, with little remaining detail except for large patches of scorched earth, dead grass, dead trees, everything in that area dead, but no beasts, no rebels, no signs of life or undead life as it would be. Scrolling the wheel, you begin looking for something. A sign of the enemy when you happen upon a group of undead creatures. An informal formation of sorts, all heading eastward. Turning the view eastward, you can see an unnatural darkening of the sky, almost as if the storm that was no longer moving is just beyond the horizon. You scroll further, and the more that you scroll, the more you feel this darkness, see this darkness surrounding. You see this unnatural darkening of the sky as almost the storm was no longer moving, but just beyond the horizon. Your view stops now and completely engulfed in darkness. You struggle to find a reference point at all. Of course, my music begins to mess up. Scrolling the wheel, you look for you scroll further looking towards the source. When finally you scroll, your view stops, now completely engulfed in darkness. You struggle to find a reference of anything around you, but you are near a city, one with a horizon line that looks vaguely familiar along the outer edges. What used to be a highly developed system of tall buildings and spires that were once used, some of the world's finest community and entertainment centers, is now suspended, 100 feet off the ground. The darkness makes it hard to see as the wind picks up around you. You move the observation ball closer just a bit, and a sickening white bolt of lightning brightens up surroundings, making it easy to see not just this one building now suspended, looking as if it had been ripped from the ground itself, but simply made to float. But now you see hundreds of satellite pieces of rock and debris floating as in orbit around the center spire. As you look for details, suddenly the ball itself becomes unresponsive. You spin the ball to the left. No response. You move left, and right, and up and down, nothing. Ball is frozen in space. You are confused. Anything that you want to try?
I assume Camille can see this as well. Like she's able to see this vision.
Yes.
Yeah, Brand would turn to Cam and kind of give him a worried look. Does there's no response when he moves the orb around, correct?
No. As soon as you move your fingers to the left or to the right or up and down, it is frozen in space.
It's still stuck. Okay, so it's stuck in that same viewpoint.
Yes. Looking directly at the tower.
Shoot. I guess maybe Brand would call back to the, like, he would shout maybe to the atrium behind them and possibly see if he can get the attention of possibly the rest of the party in order to see this, because it does concern them.
Okay, you shout out.
Yeah.
Everyone is alerted. It's not a huge space that you guys are in. Do you guys make it into the orb?
I mean, if they're calling out like there's a problem, Emmy had come down and was like on the other side of, I guess, whatever stairwell. She takes part of the scarf she was using in her hair, and she's got it like kind of wrapped, like bundled around her a little bit, like more around her face, but she comes up.
Saoirse was up toward the...
Sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, Brand is gonna like gesture to the orb, like frantically to Emmy and like the surroundings and the imagery, and just try to see if Emmy has some sort of arcane knowledge of like what is going on with this orb, because he has no idea what is going on.
You lift your hand to be able to kind of point at this, and the image does not fade.
What in the Tribus? She goes over to it. Does she recognize this? What it's looking at, this tower, and where we're looking at? Or I guess she'll even just ask, like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, Brand would just
her
state
face
that
is
it's
kind
aura.
of covered. Oh, aura. Can she try to figure it out, like an Arcana check or something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Where to go? Here it is.
While she's doing that, Saoirse and
There we go.
Saoirse and Dante, would you be making your way inside, or?
Well, I know my question was going to be, Saoirse had made her way up toward the entrance, so would she have heard Bran yelling?
Probably not in detail to know what it was. You just heard some sort of emotion of sorts.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just a yell of sorts, but nothing definitive, not from where you're at. If you're closer to the
well then
entrance.
Definitely as soon as she would have been on alert in a way, so to say. So as soon as she heard Bran's, probably distinguishing it as Bran's voice, she would have gone running down and would have hurried into the room.
It would have taken you some time, Dante.
Yeah, Dante would have made it, like, I think he was back at camp with Boltzmann, so he would have just made his way back with Boltzmann.
Yep. So everyone with Saoirse is here. Saoirse, you're running towards it. As you see, when you enter, you see this large spire and this swirling storm around it. Every once in a while, you'll see a pop of electricity, stark white with fading to almost like a green color of this storm around it. The spire floating in air, this tower, little satellites of rocks and debris that are surrounding it and now swirling, following the storm. orbiting around the spire. You see that even though Brand's hand is removed, that it's frozen in space and time. And with that 24, Emmy, your thoughts go to how similar this device and a scroll that you've been working on scrying, how similar in arcane ideas and premises it could be. And you do know that in your research into the scry that it is possible for those to be identified. Most of the time, depending on the level of arcane user around it, those go unnoticed. But there are people with the abilities, with the vision to be able to see these things, to identify them as what they are. And if an arcane user was worthy, powerful enough, they could be able to take control of this device, which what it seems to have happened. Saoirse, as you run in, first thing you see is gray-skinned hands with green energy being pulled like spider webs between them, wrapping the ball. This ball of energy that is your viewpoint. As it continues to turn, a sickening feeling falls over all of you as an undead, green glowing eyes set far back in a black hooded cloak focuses directly on the orb, piercing into the room as if the Shadow Queen herself was standing directly in front of you. The image you see begins to fade to black as you hear and see the bony finger come across the orb. Tisk, tisk. Not before we're ready to begin. And that is where we will leave tonight's session.
Oh man!
She knows. The bitch knows.
Kind of thought this was Palantir-esque.
Oh no. Oh no, I hope we can protect it. I hope she can't like break it or something. That would probably be Emmy's first reaction. Would be like, protect the stone. We need that thing. It's magic and it's wonderful.
Honest to God, I was about ready to pull out the Warhammer and smash it.
Oh god.
Dude, but also that was also the first reaction was like the other reaction was like, okay, but do we just break it and so she can't hurt us?
Could happen.
Yeah. I was honestly ready to just after Moose was finished, I was gonna be like, can Brand pull out his Warhammer?
Well, we'll find out if Brand pulls out his banner.
And he was about to jump on it. He's gonna smash her hands.
Yeah, unfortunately, Saoirse doesn't have any exploding arrows left, so she would want to pull out probably the adamantine longsword.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
All right.
Oh dear.
Thank you for all of our followers, supporters this week and every week for being here. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you again to Juicy and Pia Nova, who followed this week. Juicy, who subscribed last week. Thank you for you guys' support. If you missed any part of this episode, the VOD is available immediately on Twitch, but they will not stay there forever. If you want to catch up with any of our previous episodes of the campaign, the link to our YouTube is below. Search Black Dragon RP and look for our big Dragon Eye logo. Last thing before we go, I want to take a moment to shout out our players in the info box below. You'll see some links. Go check out those wonderful people. Some of them have links to their Twitter accounts, like RPG Theologian, Rob, who plays Saoirse, Relentless Hunter, Aaron, who plays Branimir, Throwaway Doodles, who could not be here tonight, but Ellen, who plays Boltzmann, some who stream on Twitch, like Thumper Knox, Ryan, who plays Dante, and Yumi Sagara Tony, who plays Camiel, and Brenna, who streams on Bren Nailed It channel and plays Mivi. I'm Brad. I'm known as Monocle Moose on all platforms. Go check us out. Please go to the info box below. Check out the links. Say hi to us there. That wraps up this episode from all of us. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you here again next week. Same time, same Twitch channel. We love you very much, and goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye.